Hello and welcome to Murder with Friends, the show where friends get together and talk about the darker sides of history. I'm your host, Grace Baldridge, and joining me today for another campfire edition is some Pop Trigger family. We have Amir. I don't know what you do on the show, but apparently you're here.
I just drink.
Yeah, you just drink coffee. Yeah. Asher, you run camera, you run sound, you do a little bit of everything, helping us out in the studio for Pop Trigger. And Alex, you are an editor on the show as well. And then there's me. I do some stuff here and there. And for the theme for this edition of Campfire Stories is going to be hometown horrors. And Asher, I'm going to kick it over to you. First of all, where are you from, and where does your hometown horror come from? How did you hear about it?
So my hometown horror is from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is my adopted hometown, as I like to call it. And I really kind of had to do some digging to find out about this story. I mean, Pittsburgh isn't really known. It's not like a Philly where there's a lot of kind of violent crime, right? But you know, it's a lot quieter. And Pittsburgh's, you know, it's a blue-collar town. It's like a big, small town.
So what's the time period that you're going to be telling us about? Where does this story come from?
So it all started in 1988. So this story kind of takes place during the late 80s, early 90s.
What does Pittsburgh look like?
Pittsburgh used to be making 2/3 of the world's steel. So, you know, it was
industrial.
Steel town, yeah basically. But between 1978 and then the early, like 1987, Pittsburgh lost like 133,000 manufacturing jobs. So when you're right.
So then it becomes like a ghost town.
So it's a depressed area. I mean, you still are kind of dealing with the effects of, you know, when steel manufacturing was in its heyday, there's a lot of environmental issues. It was dark by 4 just because of the smog, you know.
That's crazy.
So not only is it, you know, economically depressed, it's still kind of dealing with those environmental issues. So that's sort of where we are in 1988. So a few days after Christmas, on December 27th, Police Inspector Floyd Neving got a call about a head found in a dumpster.
A decapitated head.
A decapitated head. A
head of
that
lettuce.
Is
a really weird head of lettuce.
I just wanted to be clear.
No. The decapitated head that's found in a dumpster, and he thinks that it's a prank. He thinks it's, you know, a mannequin that's left over from Halloween, and it turns out that it's true. There's a head that's found in a dumpster in North Versailles. That is the Pittsburgh pronunciation, North Versailles. And right, so it's found in North Versailles in a dumpster behind, you know, a shopping center. 2 days later, on the other side of the Monongahela River, in a town called Whitaker, a woman is walking her dog, and the dog finds a lung underneath a shrub in a neighbor's yard. A lung.
That sounds like the beginning of a Law and Order SVU episode. A woman walking her dog finds a lung. Call up, you know, Olivia Benson.
Right.
Organ like
it's
that. You never go lungs.
You don't
like, why is there just a lone lung?
Yeah, you go head, and then you go lung, and in each case there was a little bit of small intestine found as well. So this creates kind of a panic across the Mon Valley, so the area around the Monongahela River. People keep claiming to have found body parts in trash bags, but at the same time it was deer hunting season, so they're actually finding parts of deer. Until
that'd be so terrifying. Just can you imagine, like, you're taking out the trash, you're visiting your uncle, and then you open up the trash bag and you're like, my uncle straight up killed someone. And it's a deer.
It's just,
Your uncle's like, I can't believe you found
right. So people are panicking, they're finding organs, they're not sure. So it's not until January 3rd, so now we've moved into 1989, a few days later, that we moved downtown to the U.S. Steel building. And a security guard who's working at the U.S. Steel building finds a jaw near the entrance of the building. And so police are able to kind of take all of these pieces and put them together and do a more accurate, like a composite.
So all these parts were from the same person.
Right, so they are able to determine that they're all from the same person and able to kind of put them together to do like a face composite. They put out a sketch. So Carol Michalowski recognizes it and says, I think that's my nephew, Anthony. So she goes in and she actually is able to identify that this is Anthony Michalowski, her nephew, who's 22. He's from the north side. So this kind of starts a manhunt. The police are looking for the rest of his body. They're looking for who might have done this.
What's the motive here? They dig up some stuff about Anthony's past, as I understand.
Right, yes. So that kind of starts this manhunt. So yeah, a little bit of background on Anthony himself. He wasn't reported missing, but the last time that his family saw him was on Christmas Eve. He asked his dad for $3, and then he was seen in a bar in Lawrenceville. He was kind of a drifter. He kind of, he would leave for lengths at time, and it was Christmas and New Year's, so his family's like, oh, he's just out for the holidays. Like, he's just not coming around.
I heard some reports that he was a male prostitute.
Right.
Okay.
So it's kind of disputed. A lot of the police and a lot of people said, he was unemployed. He hung around Liberty Avenue, which at the time had a lot of prostitution, male and female, adult movie theaters, adult bookstores. So it was rumored that he was a male prostitute. He might have been a homosexual or a bisexual, but his family denies that. So you can't tell if it's like the police painting a picture of him or if it's family is just like, doesn't want to admit the fact that he might have, been working for money, working streets for money. And he did have an arrest record that kind of went back to 1984. Okay. So he wasn't, he had run-ins with the law all the time.
Well, now it makes sense knowing all this why it wasn't reported missing at the time, because this was a guy that was just sort of out on his own, a little bit of a vagrant, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So the police had a telethon, which was unfortunately nicknamed a headathon.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
God, I love the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so they're desperately trying to find any information on this, but there's no other evidence really other than his body parts. And knowing Pittsburgh's geography, these are not areas close to each other. So they're desperately trying to find any kind of clue. So he has a funeral on January 28th. So this is a month after his head was initially found, kind of a month after they assumed that he died. And they only had recovered 15% of his body.
That's
my God.
Yeah. So yeah, 85% of it they never found.
I guess that's all you need to identify someone.
I guess, apparently.
I mean,
the jaw actually,
with
dental records.
They were able to determine it was actually, in fact, him.
Wow.
They found, the toxicology report showed that he had a large number of sedatives in his bloodstream, and that most of the blood was drained from his head when he died. So they can't tell if he was dead or dying by the time he was decapitated.
But they knew that his blood was being drained.
They knew that his blood was being drained, and they can't tell if it was an overdose and he was just dismembered after the fact, or if someone had actually intentionally given him a sedative with the intention of cutting him up.
Okay.
So, they're looking all over the country. They're worried that this is a serial killer and that he's gonna strike again. But eventually, a couple months in, the case goes cold. There's just no evidence. Nothing is linking it to other cases around the country. So there's nothing really that comes up until May 4th of '92. So in Shadyside, which is like a nicer area in Pittsburgh, there's a garbage truck and they're compacting the garbage and a bag falls out and a piece of thigh falls out.
What?
A human
What are the
thigh.
chances?
Oh my God.
And they were
Body
probably
parts all
like,
over the goddamn place.
it's a piece of deer.
Jesus.
No, it's
Right.
not.
Yeah.
Not a deer thigh.
It's not deer
Someone's
this
deer.
time.
A human thigh. But in the neighborhood around that same time, they found 9 other pieces of a body.
God.
So the body belonged to Michael Hickman, who's 30. Who's from East Liberty, and he had been cut into 10 pieces in total, had been strangled, had been slashed in his abdomen and dismembered and decapitated as well. And they were able to trace that back to a man by Robert Wayne Marshall,
Okay.
who was from the area from Shadyside, and they found the trash near his apartment.
Yeah.
He knew Michael Hickman because they both worked as male prostitutes on Liberty Avenue, both unemployed. He was a bad dude. He was
bad dude.
Self-described neo-Nazi vampire, which is a fun nickname
there
to
you
give
go.
yourself.
I think it's
lovely.
self-described. That
That
wasn't
wasn't
the thing that the
self-proclaimed.
media gave him.
That's
Yeah.
the one he gave himself.
Yeah.
Oh, quaint.
And in his
quaint.
apartment, they
Okay.
found all this like pro-Nazi pamphlets and things like that.
Fucking hell. My
So they were
God.
like, maybe he also did that to Anthony. So they were assuming just because of the decapitation, because of the Liberty Avenue connection, potentially, same guy. So they wanted him for questioning. He was going to be arrested for the murder of Michael Hickman.
Yeah.
But they unfortunately found him in an abandoned warehouse and he had killed himself.
Yep. But he sent a letter to his friend.
Right, he sent a
Oh.
letter which said, I wish I could convey to you how unhappy and confused my life is. By the time you read this, I will have already left the world.
So the case of Anthony, actually really both cases remain unsolved.
Right.
Wow.
Because even though they were bringing in this suspect for questioning, they really got none of their questions answered.
Yeah.
Because it's really a long shot, and they want. I know, I Italian hands. They were at the time in Pittsburgh and in the general area. There were about 20 unsolved murders, and if you look at the murders, there's not really anything tying them together other than the fact that they're unsolved. But they wanted to bring him in for questioning for all of those.
And in many cases, decapitation. But even that is not really strong enough of a lead that would
Yeah.
indicate one person could be responsible for all of these deaths.
Exactly, and it's nothing definitive to even show that there's a connection between him and Anthony Michalowski. So that it's still a cold case. It still remains unsolved, and it's kind of a reflection of a really depressing time in Pittsburgh's history. And these gentlemen were a product of it. So
Wow. That's a crazy unsolved hometown horror. We want to hear from you in the comments section below. Had you heard about this case before? Do you have any hometown horrors you'd like to share with us? Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Murder with Friends.